First Things, Episode 1. Hello, and welcome to this episode of First Things. My name is Brandon Vaughn, and this is the podcast dedicated to practical productivity. My goal is to help you apply productive solutions to your life based on modern research that will help you have less stress, greater passion, and amazing results. Life is both an adventure and a journey, and my hope is to better enable you to see your journey as the amazing adventure it is. In this episode, I want to briefly introduce the purpose and passion behind this podcast, as well as tell you a little bit about myself. This first episode will be shorter than usual since it is just a general introduction. Now, this is my first podcast ever. And as such, please know that I will get better at this over time. My goal is really just to help people and to help them for free. I'm here to walk along with you on your journey, and hopefully in the end, we all grow in our passions together. So, what is the purpose of this podcast? Well, as I stated in the intro, I want to help you live a more productive life. I want to share with you tips and tricks that I've learned and picked up that have made a difference in my life. You know, I read an article recently that talked about the tremendous amount of stress that people are under nowadays and how millions of dollars are being invested to counteract the stress that people face. And so that is some of what we want to talk about in this particular podcast. How to live a more productive life, how to deal with stress. There is an illustration in one of Stephen Covey's books called First Things First, which I would highly recommend if you have never read that. In fact, there's an illustration in that book that is the inspiration for the artwork for this particular podcast, which shows a picture of a clock and a compass and talks about the battle between the two of what you should do and your time and your limits and the true north of your life, the compass part. And we'll talk about that in future weeks, but there's an illustration in his book which I paraphrase here, and that is, in so many of our lives, we climb a ladder of what we consider to be success. Yet, the story goes how horrible it would be to climb that ladder rung by rung, to finally reach the top and realize that the ladder was leaning on the wrong wall. Now, for me, that is the purpose of the podcast, to help give you tools to make sure that your ladder is leaning on the right wall. And additionally, I want to help you climb that ladder more efficiently, as well as help you know when to put the ladder away. Now, that doesn't mean that I'll be showing you how to make more money, although if you do apply the techniques in this podcast, you might indeed make more money. Nor am I showing you how to cram more things on your to-do list. In fact, that is quite the opposite of what I want to do in this podcast. This podcast is not about formulas. It's about showing you how to live with less stress and greater purpose and passion, and how you can live in such a way that, works. So, you will hear me say this often, and it isn't original to me by any means, but it isn't the destination that matters. It's the journey that matters. The adventure is in the journey. Now, we're going to be talking about a variety of issues, from your paradigm of life to how to better handle your email, from how to practically see the beauty of life to better ways to do your job. Now, I am a former professor of psychology from Florida State University and the University of Texas. And as such, you will occasionally hear me reference some actual research whenever possible. And I do that because I want to provide you with things that are not just based on my opinion only. And yes, if it matters to you, I do have a doctoral degree, but honestly, such a degree really should have one result, and that is to firmly establish to the recipient, me, how I don't know everything. So I come to you not with lofty ideals, nor with things I've learned in an irrelevant book written by somebody in an ivory tower who knows nothing of real life. I don't come to you as someone who knows everything. A person who claims to know everything, in fact, knows nothing at all. Rather, I come to you as just a fellow journeyer, someone just like you, looking for workable solutions that make my life better and more productive. And part of this whole podcast will be a continual conversation, a conversation where I learn from you as well, because I don't know it all, and I love to learn. And in fact, I believe in a general principle in life that everybody is my teacher. And I love that perspective. Everybody on this planet has something to teach me if I just have eyes and ears to see and hear. And some people, that may be to teach me what not to do, but everybody is a teacher. So I welcome you on this journey with me, not for me to tell you everything, but also to learn from you about what works for you as well. And as we walk this journey together, I'll give you opportunity on my blog to interact and share your ideas. And it's through that interaction that we'll learn from each other. And once I learn more about podcasting, which I've been actually taking courses on podcasting, and in future weeks I'll tell you more about that in case you're interested in as well. But I'll also take your actual questions and talk about them here, maybe even take your actual calls or something and talk about them here. And for me, that is really a very exciting future aspect of this podcast. And I also hope to interview some leaders in this area as well. Now, it's your turn. What things do you struggle with in your life in terms of productivity, stress, or life balance? What topics might you like to hear us talk about on this podcast? So to comment on this episode, please visit my blog at firstThingsProductivity.com/01. 01 is in episode 1. That address again is firstThingsProductivity.com/01. Well, that is the end of this first episode of First Things. And I hope you've enjoyed it and hope you will come back in future weeks. I plan in the first few episodes to talk more about our thinking and how our thoughts really get us into trouble, and how we tend to label ourselves, how we don't ever question our thoughts, and how this can be a big factor in living a more productive and less stressful life, as well as just kind of giving ourselves some breaks sometimes and dealing with things like rejection and perfectionism and different things like that. So I hope you enjoyed this first program, and I welcome you on this journey with me. If you find this useful, please spread the word around. And in future weeks, I'm going to build out my podcast into a more elaborate blog, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. So I'll give you some tools by which you can help me spread this podcast and help other people. But until next time, remember this. Life is not about the destination, but the journey. The adventure is in the journey. So go out today and embrace it with passion and intention, and don't die with your music still inside you.